Hi friends! Australia is also known as Land of Opportunities. Australia provides a lot of opportunities to international students to pursue their career. So today, here I am with the FAQ of Australia Student Visa.
Will international students return to Australia in 2021?
Australia's COVID-19 response and the international student arrivals last November gave hope to the whole Australian higher education sector. However, the promising initial response has stalled in 2021. The government has stopped the arrival of further international students.
What are the new rules of Australia study visa?
Valid passport. Your passport must valid for at least 6 months beyond your period of stay in Australia. Confirmation of enrollment form, that is a COE. To obtain a visa to study in Australia, you must be fully enrolled in an Australian institution and receive a confirmation of enrollment.
How can I apply for Australian student visa in 2021?
Apply to an Australian university and get your acceptance letter. Check if you need a student visa for Australia. Find out what type of visa you need to study in Australia. And the language requirements. The language requirements for studying in Australia is mandatory. Documents required for the student visa in Australia. And work as an international student in Australia.
How much bank balance is required for Australia student visa?
The financial requirements is like evidence of sufficient funds to cover tuition, travel and living cost. From February 2018, the amount you need to prove you have for living cost, which is separate from the tuition and the travel fees, is set as 20,290 Australian dollar for a year.
Will Australia open borders for international students in 2022?
Australia won't welcome tourists until 2022, allows only migrants and students. International tourists won't be welcomed back to Australia until the next year. With the return of skilled migrants and students given high priority, the Prime Minister said it on Tuesday.
Will international students return to Australia?
The development follows the approval of the Covishield vaccine, an Indian-made version of AstraZeneca, for incoming international travelers. The highlights are international students from India can start returning to Australia by the end of 2021.
What happens if a student works more than 20 hours in Australia?
The work rules for international students are like the 20-hour per week limit does not extend to any work. The student is required to undertake as a component of his or her studies or training. If an international student works more than the Australian restrictions allow, his or her visa may be cancelled.
How much do students earn in Australia?
A student on a student visa is entitled to earn a minimum wage of $18.23 per hour or $719.20 per 38-hour week for working both on campus and off campus during the period of their full-time study.
Which is the best course to get PR in Australia?
The top 14 courses that can lead to PR in Australia, the first one is engineering. Completing an engineering degree from Australia can open up various employment opportunities for international students. The rest are accounting, nursing, social work, medical, computer and information technology, education and teaching, automotive and furthermore.
Can I apply for PR while on student visa in Australia?
International students can apply for permanent residency after they undertake courses in education and teaching. Also, while planning to study in Australia, make sure to buy an overseas student health card, as the Department of Home Affairs have made it mandatory for a student to have an overseas health insurance.
How can I study in Australia without showing money?
Most immigration and education consultancy agencies use the no show money and back it with you can work in Australia for up to 40 hours to attract more individuals to apply for a student visa in Australia. In regard to the work privilege, it remains as is a privilege.
How can I study in Australia for free?
To study in Australia for free with the scholarship, you must have a strong academic base as most of the scholarships are based on academic merit. So, you must provide detailed information about your previous education and your grades. To gain some of the scholarships, English language requirements are also mandatory.
Will Australia open borders for international students?
Australia is unlikely to reopen its border to international travelers until next year, but will look to relax entry rules for students and other long-term visitors.
What happens if international student works more than 20 hours?
Working more than 20 hours per week is a violation of your study permit conditions. You can lose your student status for doing this and may not be approved for a study or work permit in the future. You may also have to leave the country too.
What is the highest paid part-time job in Australia?
Highest paying part-time jobs in Australia is like becoming a tutor. If you have the knowledge and wish to impart it to others to brighten their future, then this is your start. And the rest are driver, authorized agent, waiter, stylist, secretary, mail carrier, oral hygienist, etc.
Can international student work 40 hours in Australia?
Like many international students, you may get a part-time or casual job to gain experience in the workplace or help pay your living expenses while you study in Australia. International students can work up to 40 hours per fortnight while they are studying and can work full-time during their semester breaks.
Is it easy to get a job in Australia for international students?
Despite this, research suggests it's hard for international students to get jobs in their host country for several reasons. Australian employers prefer locals who they say understand the country's workplaces, legal rights, local terminology, and expectations.
How long does it take to get PR in Australia for international students?
As per the Department of Immigration and Border Protection, the general waiting time for Australia PR is around 8 to 12 months. The visa category which you select for Australia PR make a huge impact on your visa processing time.
Is it easy to get student visa for Australia?
As compared to the other countries, it is easier to get a student visa for Australia. Once you are enrolled in a full-time study course, you can apply for a visa under subclass 500. With a student visa which is under the subclass 500, the visa holder can enroll in a course, participate in an eligible course of study as well.
How can I convert my Australian student visa to PR?
New pathway to permanent residency in Australia for international students is there. At least 2 years study at a postgraduate level in a university in Western Australia, evidence of work experience, demonstrate proficiency in English, have a full-time offer on a 12-month contract, prove sufficient funds, etc.
Can I apply for permanent residency while on student visa?
Many international students choose to apply for a permanent residency after they graduate. This visa allows you to live and work in Australia as permanent resident. Along with submitting an EOI, applicants must undergo a skill assessment.
How much does international student cost in Australia?
Tuition fees for international students in Australia start at around $20,000, which is an Australian dollar, per year of study. The average fee is over $30,000. Australian universities charge tuition fees based on the number of units you take. The annual fee for a course is the cost of 2 semesters, which is full-time.
What is the study cost in Australia?
The study cost in Australia is as follows.